There are some Dragon Ball facts that sound made up until you actually go back and check them. Some are tiny details you probably never noticed. Some completely change how you look at certain characters. And then there are a few that make you wonder how Toriyama even came up with this stuff. So here are 10 Dragon Ball facts that get crazier as we go. Let's start with one that makes the Cell games even more awkward. 1. Yamcha and Tien barely got to witness Gohan's true power. By the time the Cell games happen, Gohan's potential has already been talked about for years. But for Yamcha and Tien, the Cell games are basically the moment where they finally get to see just how absurd Gohan has become. They're there while Gohan fights Cell, and when Gohan finally snaps and becomes a Super Saiyan 2, the difference in power is ridiculous. The Z fighters watching are completely overwhelmed by what they're seeing. And honestly, that's one of the funniest parts of the scene. These guys had spent their entire lives training, and then this 9-year-old basically jumps past them without even trying. 2. Goku never actually met Android 17 in Dragon Ball Z. This one sounds impossible. Android 17 is literally one of the most important characters in the Android and Cell story. He fights the Z fighters, he gets absorbed by Cell. He later becomes a huge part of Dragon Ball Super, but during the events of Dragon Ball Z, Goku and Android 17 never actually meet face to face. Goku is sick when 17 and 18 arrive, and by the time Goku is back in action, 17 has already been absorbed by Cell. Then during the final Spirit Bomb, 17 contributes energy even though Goku still hasn't personally met him. That's why his line about recognizing Goku's voice seems so strange. Super eventually explained it. 17 had been conscious inside Cell and could hear what was happening. So Goku spent an entire saga trying to survive a guy he technically never met. 3. The entire Majin Buu crisis happened ridiculously fast. Dragon Ball makes the Buu saga feel like it lasted forever. Gohan goes to high school, we get the World Tournament, Vegeta becomes Majin, Buu gets released, cities get destroyed. People get turned into chocolate, fusion happens, the Earth gets destroyed, then Goku fights Kid Buu. It feels like months of story. But the actual timeline is much crazier. The main Buu crisis unfolds in roughly a day or two. At one point, Goku literally asks Buu and Babidi to wait 2 days so Goten and Trunks can finish training. And before you know it, the entire planet is being destroyed and the final battle is happening. So while we were watching hundreds of episodes and reading dozens of chapters, these characters were basically living through the apocalypse over a weekend. 4. Goku and Chiaotzu almost never talk. Think about how ridiculous this is. Goku has spoken to practically everyone. He's talked to gods, villains, aliens, random tournament contestants, even people he's only met for 5 minutes. But Chiaotzu? Almost nothing. For most of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, the two barely interact directly at all. That's especially funny because Chiaotzu is one of Tien's closest companions, and Goku has known Tien since the original Dragon Ball. There are anime and later material exceptions, which is why saying they never spoke throughout the entire franchise is too broad. But in the original story, their lack of interaction is genuinely bizarre. It's one of those situations where you realize Goku has spent more time talking to some of his enemies than he has talking to Chiaotzu. 5. Goku did not become a Saiyan prince by marrying Chi-Chi. This one gets repeated a lot, but technically, no. Chi-Chi is the daughter of the Ox King, so marrying her does connect Goku to the Ox King's family, but that doesn't give Goku some secret royal Saiyan title. Goku is a Saiyan because he's the son of Bardock and Jean, and the actual Saiyan royal bloodline belongs to King Vegeta and his family. So Goku marrying Chi-Chi doesn't suddenly make him a prince. If anything, Goku has basically zero interest in royal titles anyway. The man went from eating mountains of food to getting married and starting a family. Being a prince was probably somewhere near the bottom of his to-do list. 6. Cell may never have existed the way we know him. This one is actually insane. The Android and Cell story didn't arrive exactly as one perfectly planned storyline. Toriyama's former editor, Kazuhiko Torishima, criticized Androids 19 and 20 as villains. So Toriyama changed things, then Androids 17 and 18 became the new focus, and Torishima apparently still wasn't satisfied. That's when the story changed again, and Cell was created. But even then, Cell's final design wasn't completely locked in. Toriyama's current editor, Yu Kondo, also criticized Cell's forms, which pushed the story toward the next transformation, so the Android arc basically kept evolving because editors kept saying, no, make the villain better. 19 and 20, then 17 and 18, then Cell, then Perfect Cell. And somehow that chaotic process produced one of the most famous arcs in anime history. 7. In Dragon Ball Z, Goku barely kills anyone. Goku has fought an insane number of villains, but if you're talking specifically about Dragon Ball Z and you exclude the movies and specials, his direct kills are surprisingly limited. Two notable examples are Yakon and Kid Buu. Yakon is killed when Goku overwhelms him with light after Yakon tries to absorb too much energy, and Kid Buu is finally destroyed by Goku's Spirit Bomb. That's it for the big-name DBZ villains people normally think of. Frieza? Goku defeats him, but doesn't finish him in the original story. Cell? Gohan kills him. Majin Vegeta? Not Goku. So, despite being the main character, Goku actually isn't the one personally ending most of the major villains he fights. 8. Cooler supposedly controlled hundreds of planets. Now let's talk about Frieza's family. Everybody knows Frieza had an empire. But Cooler? In the movie continuity, Cooler's reach is ridiculous. Sources and supplementary Dragon Ball material associated at least 79 planets with Frieza, while Cooler is associated with around 256. That's important though. Those numbers aren't saying Cooler literally sat on a throne personally managing 256 planets. They're part of the wider Planet Trade Organization setup and the information given about planets controlled or associated with the family. Still 256 planets. Imagine being some random alien civilization and looking up at the sky one day only to hear, yeah, Frieza's brother owns this planet now. 9. There are way more Kamehamehas than you probably remember. The Kamehameha started as one technique. Master Roshi taught it to Goku, and somehow Dragon Ball kept finding new ways to reuse it. Regular Kamehameha, Super Kamehameha, Instant Transmission Kamehameha, 10x Kamehameha, Father-Son Kamehameha, Final Kamehameha, Big Bang Kamehameha, and that's only scratching the surface. Fan-maintained lists have cataloged more than 25 named or distinct Kamehameha variations across Dragon Ball Z, GT, and Super, depending on what exactly you count as a separate version. At this point, the Kamehameha isn't even one technique anymore. It's basically its own franchise. 10. King Kai's monkey Bubbles may be a Michael Jackson reference, and this might be the weirdest one to end on. King Kai's pet monkey is named Bubbles. Michael Jackson also had a famous pet chimpanzee named Bubbles. And yes, both were around in the same era. This similarity has been noticed by Dragon Ball fans for decades, and it's a pretty obvious pop culture connection. But here's the important part. There doesn't appear to be a solid official statement from Toriyama saying, yes, King Kai's Bubbles was named after Michael Jackson's Bubbles. So we should call it what it is, a very likely reference, but not a confirmed one. Still, considering Dragon Ball's history of using real-world pop culture references, it would be one hell of a coincidence, and that's what makes Dragon Ball so fun. You can watch this series for decades and still find weird little details hiding everywhere. Some of them are deliberate, some of them come from the manga's insane development history, and some are just bizarre coincidences. But there's always another fact waiting to make you look at Dragon Ball completely differently, and honestly, that's probably why we never get tired of it.